Hi everybody, Dan Ullman, Mike Beer, the DRF.com Formulator Race of the Day for Saturday, June the 24th. Race number 8 at Thistledown. We're going 1 1/8 miles. It's for 3-year-olds. It's the Grade 3 Ohio Derby. Let's take a look at this field. Head on over to the Race of the Day event page on DRF.com. Download free Formulator past performances and handicap along with us as we take this field in post position order. Speed down towards the inside. Mike Beer, the number 2 IRAP, pace pressing winner of the Bluegrass. Beat some good horses in that race.
He did. I don't know. I suppose if he runs his Bluegrass again, he's really tough in this race. I don't know what to really say about him, Dan. He's a short price in this race. He can obviously win. It's not that strong of a field, but I don't even like really any of his races, and that includes the Bluegrass.
That was his first ever win. He was a maiden going into the Bluegrass. He was one of the rank outsiders in that race. And I think it helped that he caught McCracken coming off a little bit of a physical problem. And he was able to kind of be close to the pace on a day where you needed to be close. IRAP, big buyer speed figure that race. If he runs back to it, he easily can win. He's got speed in the rail, as we mentioned. And you want to take the Derby from any of these horses coming out of the Derby with several grains of salt. A, they were probably overmatched. B, wet track.
I don't care about the Derby for any of these horses or for wherever any of those 20 horses show up in their next race. I don't care about the Derby necessarily, but it's just like when you start taking IRAP apart. I mean, it's a good spot for him. I'm not really knocking him. I just don't really think he's that good.
Right. I mean, you get beat at even money in the Mind That Bird Derby going 1 1/16, and you wonder against other promising horses, where does he fit? He's been a bit of an in and outer in his career. You really have to ask yourself, do you believe the Bluegrass or not? The number 3 is Untrapped, and really my major question with Untrapped is a distance question. I think he can be a rather effective 7-furlong 1-turn mile horse down the road. He's going to have to navigate 1 1/8 here. Again, you don't hold the Derby against him. He actually got a very nice trip under Ricardo Santana. He saved ground in mid-pack. He was done with about 3.5 furlongs to go, and Santana quite rightly didn't beat him up. In the Arkansas Derby and the Rebel, it was just sort of the same thing. Bid, flattened, and that's sometimes a sign that 1 1/8 is a bit far.
I mean, that's how I look at him. I will say this about him. If you just told me I could just have one horse out of this race, I'd probably take him, but I wouldn't run him in these kinds of races. I understand why they're pressing on and trying it one more time. There's 500,000 reasons why they're trying it, but he's made it pretty clear that he doesn't want to go this far. Derby aside, in his Arkansas Derby, he was a little wide, but he took a run at that race. He got great trips in the Rebel and the Rising Star and the LeCompte. He just doesn't want to go this far.
He's the kind of horse, though, that's going to get good trips because he has nice tactical speed. I would expect yet another good one here. Of the Derby horses, I like Untrapped in the Ohio Derby. Talk Less is part of the 3-ply Luch stable entry. Talk Less has won his last 2 races, and he's got a little bit of a home court advantage if you believe in that stuff. Winning a non-winners of 2 life at Thistledown last time out with a 68 buyer. So he's paired up buyer tops. The problem is 68's kind of low.
He's 2 for 2 on dirt since they switched him over. That's a good thing. He has a win over this track, and that's a good thing. The horses that he's been beating in his last 2 races, however, you know, they make IRAP look like Secretariat.
That horse has a win at Thistle. One of his coupled stablemates, Vibe, has a win at 1 1/8 miles. That being at Churchill Downs last time out in a race that was washed off the turf. He was very game that day. He earned his career best buyer speed figure, and he does have tactical speed. He's a solid horse, but this is a big step up in class.
Yeah, he's just facing some much tougher horses here, but he's run pretty well in each of his last 2 starts.
A horse that I'm interested in using in here somewhere is the number 4, Sorry Eric. I don't really think distance is going to be an issue for Sorry Eric, a horse that was claimed for $20,000 by Keith DeZormo earlier this year. They've run him in some tough spots like the Louisiana Derby. The Louisiana Derby, you know, Kent just kept him about 4 or 5 pass off the rail, and he really didn't get into it. But I thought his last race on the turf was somewhat promising. He needs pace.
Yeah, I liked his last race just fine. He was never going to win that race, but I thought he ran pretty well in there. Boy, it's funny. I kept looking at this race just because I don't love the 3 horses coming out of the Kentucky Derby, and I wanted somebody else, and I really wanted it to be him. The more I sort of started looking at him and watching the replay of his races, I'm just not sure that he's that good a horse, Dan.
Keeneland graduate Gervin attracts Mike Smith, who was aboard for the Kentucky Derby, and Smith's winning just about everything in sight right now. This horse did nothing wrong in his first 4 starts, and then the whispers started Derby week. They aren't the week before the Derby. Even the things weren't right. He had a little bit of a problem with a foot. Then he didn't have the greatest trip in the world in the Derby. You can throw the Derby out. On credentials, he's the best horse in the race. He's got good tactical speed. He's won at 1 1/8 miles. He ticks most of the boxes except for price.
Yeah, exactly. He's just the favorite, and maybe he's not that compelling of a favorite in this race, but I do feel like He's got the best races. He deserves to be a short price in this race, and he's just way the horse to beat.
Fast and Accurate did win one of the Kentucky Derby preps. It was one of the weaker ones, the Grade 3 Spiral on a synthetic surface, where he utilized his good speed to find a spot, and he kept on going. He was walloped in the Kentucky Derby chasing that fast pace, and his race last time out, maybe the yielding turf course had something to do with it. I thought it was very disappointing, the Arlington Classic, how he gave way readily. He's got speed, but in his 2 dirt starts, I just don't think he's this kind of horse.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just don't think he is either. I mean, I wanted to make him dangerous because he has speed, and maybe he's a threat to wire this field, but I suspect IRAP will have something to say about that down on the rail. I don't know, Dan. I'll be surprised if he could take this field all the way.
The third Luch entrant, I think, is the most dangerous, and that's the 1X Game Over, who has raced twice, has won twice. And this horse overcame a lot of adversity in his most recent start. I know it was only against starter allowance runners at Churchill Downs, but he did it the right way.
Yeah, he won that race really easily, and I thought very impressively as well. He's got to stretch out. There are things working against him. The first 2-turn race of his career here against some better horses, all those things add up, I guess. And you also have to sort of look at him and feel like there's got to be some kind of hole in this horse. Asmussen debuted this horse for 40 at Oakland. I mean, he crushed that field too, but they debuted him for 40, so you feel like maybe there's something wrong with him. I just like both of his races, and again, if you don't like the 3 favorites, the 3 horses coming out of the Derby, and you want somebody else, who's it going to be? He's the only one I can make.
He got a major education last time out sprinting at Churchill Downs. Corey Lannery, as he's wont to do, kept him down inside. He squeezed through a very tight spot, then that spot stopped. He didn't have to alter course once. He had to alter course twice to the 3-path in mid-stretch. He was running out of time, and he still went right on by. He's by mine shaft. You have to think that the 2 turns will be well within his scope. The 7 is Hinton. All Hinton's done is win 3 out of his last 4 starts. He deserves an opportunity against these better horses. He's another horse with tactical speed. It's a big ask from a class standpoint.
Yeah, he's a fine horse. He's run well in all of his races, and they're just going to step up and take a little shot here at a price. There's no reason he can't take another step forward in this race.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Formulator race of the day. That is the Ohio Derby. I'm going to go with the number 3, Untrapped. I think he's going to work on a good show. I'm very concerned about the distance. I say I do not love Untrapped at all. He is 9-2 on the morning line. I probably need 5 or 6. I just think that IRAP's going. I think that Fast and Accurate's going. I think that Untrapped's going to tuck in 3rd, work out a good trip, and we'll see. Can he get the mile and an 1/8 against this competition?
I don't know. I don't know if he can or not. That's what you did and what I did, I think, is an anti-favorite play. Correct?
I think so.
I think so. For me, it is. It's an anti-IRAP, anti-Gervin play. Not going to be surprised if they, one of them wins and they run 1-2 in this race. But I'm sort of against them from a wagering standpoint. I just wanted somebody else. Game Over. I hate that he's part of a three-ply entry, but I can't imagine the other 2 pull that much money into this thing. He's the one that people are going to be betting, and I think deservedly so.
I'm going to be using Game Over in any kind of multiple race wager. We're going to have a pick 4 play for Thistledown Saturday card up on the site a little bit later Friday afternoon. Mike's going to go with 1X, 5, 3, and 2. I'm going to go with the 3 Untrapped over the 1X, and I'll also use a little bit of Sorry Eric. Saturday Formulator race of the day is the Ohio Derby, and if you're playing the Thistledown Saturday card, including that pick 4, DRF Bets is where you need to go, because new DRF Bet subscribers can immediately access a $300 bonus just by going to drfbets.com/VIP. Approximate post time for the Grade 3 Ohio Derby, 5:30 Eastern. Good luck.